Aha. So I didn't actually test anything coming into this, so please let me know in the comments if you can actually hear me. This was very amateurish on my part, but I want to set some ground rules first and foremost. This is not a stream bashing Hasbro or bashing anyone who happens to enjoy modern Star Wars toys. This is simply because last week I posted a video looking at Stan Solo Creations' latest toys or figures, and in that video I made a passing comment that I thought Vintage Collection was garbage, and I didn't appreciate the fact that Hasbro has used the term vintage for something that is absolutely not vintage. And for the most part, the comments I received pretty much echoed my sentiments, but one or two were quite angry at me for saying that. So this live stream, which will be an interactive stream momentarily, is simply to gauge the opinion of the wider audience and to find out if I am missing out by not being interested in modern Star Wars toys, or if I am in fact correct in my opinions. So what we'll do first of all is we'll catch up with the chat here, and then I will post a link should anyone wish to come on the stream, and we can debate this like grown adults. Now, in terms of coming onto this stream, if I know you, if I've seen you before, that won't be a problem, but I have seen other streams recently whereby there is an open invite and there are spammers coming onto the streams and immediately posting obscene videos, and that can get channels into a lot of trouble. So if you happen to join the stream and I don't let you on, don't be offended just because I don't know who you are. But anyway, so the first comment was 40 minutes ago from Jaws. And he says, Vintage Collection are the best of both worlds. Vintage retro style packaging, but fully articulated action figures the way they should be. 5 POA is dead and belongs in the past. Oh my God, that's so offensive, man. No, no, 5 POA is where it's at, but we'll get to all this very shortly. Monkey Boy Toys is here. I like the Vintage Collection. I have a few of them. In many cases, they're actually better than their Black Series counterparts. Again, this whole topic could equally be aimed at Black Series, another line of figures that does not pull at me in any way, shape, or form. Again, Monkey Boy, I do, however, see the appeal of 5 POA in terms of pure nostalgia. Yes, indeed. And Monkey Boy for the third time. I do think that TVC is the wrong name for modern figures, although admittedly, I don't have a better suggestion. Okay, we can come up with a better name in the course of this stream, I think. Adrian says hello, and hello to you. 80s and Star Wars guy is here. Hello. Esva is here. Fantastic. And I just jumped ahead there. And Gerard is here. Awesome to see you. Only one Kenobi. Yes, we were actually discussing this a bit earlier. Hopefully, when Nick is done with his, I think he was doing a premiere at this time. Once he's done with that, maybe he'll jump on, and because he's a big fan of the Vintage Collection, so we can maybe get his opinion on this. Espa, yep, sound quality is fine. Oh, also, I should mention as well, like I'm not being lazy. It's just that I don't have the space at the moment to do things with a microphone plugged in and a camera. This is all just straight from the laptop. So we got the built, I have to get my finger here. That is the built-in camera, and the microphone for the audio is somewhere within the confines of this laptop. Excuse me, Monkey Boy saying hello to everyone. I keep burping, and someone did mention on one of my videos that they enjoyed my lager burps, which I thought was kind of funny. Jaws, loud and clear, thank you. And Nick is saying, what an intro, thank you. Daniel Chart here. Hello, Dean, and good evening to everyone in the chat. Good evening to you. And Retro Guy Sai is here saying evening, and Travels with Jason is here. Travels and more. You used to be Travels with Jason, but now you're Travels and more. So I need to keep remembering the and more part. Sunday fun day, whoop whoop. Yes, Gerard. I'm back from London and just finished my dinner. Oh, awesome. Hope it was a good dinner. Let us know what you had. Andrew is saying, good to have you back. Uh, Dean, good to have you back. I stop. Hope you mean you stopped by. I don't know, but it's good to see you here. And the best name on YouTube, Wilma Dickfit. Awesome to see you, Dean, but I disagree with your opinion on the vintage collection. Fantastic. We're not all here to circle jerk. So if you have a differing opinion to mine, that's what I really want to hear. Andrew says, hi, Dean. Good to see you back. Last time I was on stream, offered you a Transformer Jetfire. Still here, and life took over. So apologies. Completely neglected to send until I was reminded by Resurgence. Oh no, don't worry about that at all, please. Vintage collection line is semi-interesting. It's a hate-love it line as like it, but still love the vintage. Yeah, I agree with you there, Jason. And Nick is saying, no Premier Dean. So I'm now here and watching, listening. Awesome. Well, okay, I must have got confused. I thought you were busy doing something immediately at, I guess, 8 p.m. your time. But it's good to have your full attention here. And as I said, we will be posting a link momentarily to make this a bit more interactive rather than just me rambling along. Andrew says, incomplete sentence, hit sent too early. Yeah, I understand doing things prematurely. Jaws says, didn't mean to be no, Jaws, not at all. I was being, or trying to be funny, obviously very badly. I didn't mean to be offensive or come across that way. My apologies if it did. Just don't like 5p. Oh, no. I was being a bit sort of facetious there by saying, oh, no. And everyone can like what they like. It was a beef hot pot. Oh, sounds good. I do really like the vintage collection, but I admit some choices are baffling. I'm trying to think here. So my stance is, well, first of all, hate's a strong word, but I do not like the fact that they have commandeered the name vintage collection for a collection of figures that are in no way, shape, or form vintage. And then, of course, they had to sort of think, well, what can we do for the Kenner re-releases? So they called that retro collection. Well, clearly, retro collection should have been vintage collection. And then the 3.75 modern figures could have been called something else. So that's one of my gripes about the whole thing. But we'll get to all that in due course. I find the vintage collection better than Black Series. They've made some good figures. Not all are terrible. I mean, again, I'm coming at this from the perspective that I've only handled 2 or 3 vintage collection figures. And in all 3, or if it was 2, I think it's maybe 3 instances, I was very disappointed. I thought these figures were extremely fragile. There is absolutely no need to have that much articulation on a 3.75-inch figure. But more than anything, what really irked me was the use of the classic vintage Kenner card backs for something that was not vintage Kenner. But again, this is just the introduction. We can explain things further in a due course. Daniel says, hi, Dean, and everyone in the chat. Well, hi to you as well. So Retro Guy Sai, I think the TVC is great for in-package collectors, but they are not for me. I have one Boba Fett figure, fantastic detail, but it just won't stand up. Regret opening it, but I open almost everything. Well, you and me both. Yes. Part of my dislike for the line came from a video I did a number of years ago where I managed to acquire, I'm going to say 7 or 8 different TIE fighter pilot figures from over the years to do a comparison. And without question, the worst figure in that lineup was the vintage collection figure. It was so fragile, so fiddly, so overly articulated. It was just horrible. It looked awful. It didn't work as intended. And then my second interaction came when I was making my vintage custom Luke Skywalker X-Wing pilot, whereby I took the X-Wing pilot from Kenner, I took a Luke, and I hate the word farm boy, so I took the original Luke Skywalker, did a head swap, but then I used the vintage collection helmets to have Luke holding his helmet. And that figure, again, it was just weird. It just didn't feel right. It didn't look right. And again, that many articulation points on a small figure doesn't work. And I'm now reminded of my third interaction, which of course happened a couple of weeks back, where because I received a lot more Stan Solo Rebel Fleet Troopers than I was expecting, in order to use them nicely, I got hold of the Vintage Collection Tantive 4 Corridor, and that came with a figure. And the figure just looked awful in the package. His face was far too long. The way it was sitting in the packet with like all the elbow articulation and the wrist articulation, it just looked horrible. So if you're in packet or mint on card displaying collector, I guess it all depends on how it's been put in the card, because the one I had, it wasn't looking particularly nice in the bubble there. And out of card, which I've experienced a couple of times now, not really nice to hold or play with either. So let's all find out what happens here. Jaw says, of course it's all good. Absolutely, it's all good. Hi, Sai, only one Kenobi Monkey Boy and everyone else. Impossible Pie. The peg holes on the vintage collection are a problem. Some are not deep enough. Yep. Not having a deep enough hole is quite often a problem, as we, or some of us may attest to. Andrew says, Dean, last time you streamed, you mentioned buying what you could because unavailable in Thailand. Have you found cool things there that you can't easily get on the Western front? Yes, absolutely. There are a ton of vintage Japanese toys that I know nothing about. There are also, in terms of modern toys, the stuff that I guess people in the West lust after, like SH Figuarts, all the Bandai, Takara, Tonika, all that stuff is readily available, but it's not really stuff that I'm into. Although I have assembled a modest Cayman Rider collection, which is currently staying over there at the moment, just because there's nothing available readily that I'm familiar with. So I thought, let me pick up stuff that looks cool. And I thought some of the Cayman Rider stuff looks cool. I also got a SH Figuarts Ultraman that is really cool, which is kind of ironic because what makes it cool is the multiple articulation points, but it is a slightly bigger figure. So I guess that makes it all okay. Possible Pie. Dean, I own the HasLab Razor Crest. It's fantastic. Most of the figures from Mandalorian are really good. Yeah, I'm sure. And actually, on that subject, part of my dislike of vintage collection is that they've used the vintage name and they've done Kenner style card backs for characters that only came out in the past couple of years. Maybe I'm very protective of my vintage, but again, we'll discuss that in due course. Daryl says the modern figures are fine, but should not be called vintage collection. I agree wholeheartedly. I have the Corridor, it's cool. Also have Jabba's Skiff, which is a great set as well. Vintage collection vehicles are great to display with vintage figures. Yes, I agree with that statement. The Corridor that I got is looking really good with my mix of vintage Kenner and Stan Solo Creations vintage style figures. That absolutely works a treat. And I almost got myself the Endor bunker, but then I thought, you know what, it's not that nice looking. It's overpriced for what it is, and I really don't need it. But I am planning a very small vintage Endor display in my collection, and I thought the bunker could have worked, but I decided against it. So let me know in the chat, what do you think of the Endor bunker? Excuse me. I agree, Impossible Pie. There we go. Daniel says, personally, for me, when it comes to Star Wars, it's 5 POA. Absolutely. That's where it's at. Have to go now, guys. Okay, thanks for stopping by, Sai. Sleep well, Sai. What I didn't like about Wave 1 of TVC from the PTM, I guess that's Phantom Menace. The figures were alien and droid figures, no characters of Darth Sidious, Chancellor Palpatine, or Chancellor Valorum. Okay, I didn't know that. Again, I don't know anything about Vintage Collection other than what I've experienced firsthand. And Martin says hi to me and hi to everyone, and I say hi right back. Impossible Pie says the indoor bunker is okay if you can find it cheap. It's basically a big door. Yes, I did look into it in some detail, and my thinking was if I got a new one, I would do the exact same and sell the figure to offset the cost. And then I looked on eBay, and a lot of people did the opposite, whereby I guess they kept the figure and sold the bunker. But even then, like 25, 30 bucks for a plastic door, basically, wasn't happening. So I've passed on that. George says hi, to Martin says hi. The bunker is cool. I got it and got my vintage figure display with it. Okay, yeah, send me a picture sometimes, Jason. Let me see how it looks. But yeah, I don't think it's worth the money. So Nick is saying, just to reiterate what I said before, Dean, Exhibit A of TVC Greatness is the first figure in the line, the first ever Dengar, that beautiful classic card, but with a screen-accurate update to the original figure. I wonder if this could be an age thing where I am very, not possessive, but to me, there is only one Dengar figure, and that's from, Kenner. Okay, I'm going to catch up with the chat, and then I'm going to open things up. So any callers wish to call in and tell me why I'm wrong, or perhaps agree with me. Andrew's saying, might be a nice way for next gen to get into Star Wars, but the faces in the Vintage Collection are all slightly disturbing, but the playsets seem cool. Yes, that's what I thought as well. On my Rebel Fleet Trooper, I did not like his long, weird-looking face. Likewise, on the Luke Skywalker I used for the helmet, the face looked really weird. And that's not to go into mentioning about the sort of weird sort of poses they're sometimes put in inside the bubbles. Dean, what name would you give the Vintage Collection? I agree the Vintage Collection should be the 5 POAs. They could have chosen anything at all. In fact, even, well, retro, no. Let's keep retro and vintage for these remakes of what are genuine retro vintage figures, but any name other than vintage. And the worst part is, if you give me 1 second, I'm getting rather thirsty here. The worst part about Vintage Collection is when going on eBay to search for genuine vintage Kenner Star Wars figures, what comes up in the results? Vintage Collection. Obviously, a keen eye will know straight away, but it's a pain in the ass to have to filter that stuff out. So Jason has sent me a photo. Let me see if this is in fact correct. This is correct. So let me see where Jason has sent this. Here we go. So let me do this sideways. Nah, not really. Okay, yeah, that looks pretty cool, Jason. If you don't mind, I'll just try to share it with the audience as best I can. I don't know how well you can see that, but there's the modern bunker with some classic vintage Star Wars figures. Yeah, it's a nice size. Okay, maybe I'll rethink my position on this. There's no way I'm paying, I think Amazon wanted about $60 for that set. I'm not paying that much. And as I said, on eBay, people have done the opposite of me, whereby they've obviously bought the set brand new, kept the figure, and are selling the playset. Impossible Pie asks, Dean, are you getting the Stan Solo Darth Vader with removable helmet? Yes, I am. So I have that along with the Dagobah Luke Skywalker. And I think that's the extent of my pre-orders with Stan Solo. I didn't get those sisters. I don't even remember their name now. Like Tonika sisters. Who the hell are they? They look nice enough, but I don't know who they are as characters, so I don't need them. But anyone who knows who those girls are, let me know in the comments. I guess you could go with modern collector instead of vintage. Yeah, that would make sense. Modern collection, yeah. Anything but vintage. It works well with the Biker Scouts. Yeah, it does. So let me post this link and we'll hopefully get some folks on who may or may not agree with my stance. And again, this is not about bashing anyone who likes it. We all like different things. So if your intention is to come on here and cause trouble, I will boot your ass as fast as you came in. Let's have a civilized debate on this and try to work out what it is that makes me not like it, but some of you guys love it, and we can go back and forth. Let me see if I can post this. Okay, and if I can somehow pin this. Oh, I've got the option to put user in a timeout or ban and delete comments. Okay, I better not do that. I guess I'll do that on YouTube. So if I've got, what's this? Okay, I'm going to make some hearts, or I'm going to make a bunch of hearts go flutter. What the hell is this feature on YouTube now? It seems a bit odd. We've got smiley faces and popping things. I'm trying to pin this to the top. Let me see. Pin message. Okay, so that should be pinned now. So should anyone wish to come on and have a civilized debate about this, you're more than welcome. And already we have a guest who is more than familiar with this channel because he was a very regular guest, and in some cases he was the co-host. He is a fan of the vintage collection. It is Monkey Boy's Toys.
Good evening.
Good evening, Dave.
Everybody. I can't believe you don't know who the Tonika sisters are. Goodness
No.
me, Dean. You've let yourself down and you've let everybody else down.
Okay. We'll address that shame in 1 second, but we have another guest to introduce. And this may well just be the youngest viewer of this channel. This is the 1980s and Star Wars guy. And I believe, and he will correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe he is watching this channel because his father gave him some of the toys that I also played with. So I am now feeling very old, but this is 1980s and Star Wars guy.
Hello there. Hello there.
Hello there. How are you, sir?
I am very good. I'm really, really good. Thanks.
Oh, it's nice to actually see you because you've been commenting for a rather long time.
Yeah, quite a while.
Okay.
Oh, by the way, it's Tom, by the way. So, yeah.
Tom. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll need to try and remember
Nice
that.
to meet you, Tom.
Yeah.
And you.
So, so going back to this, is it Tonika sisters?
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
it was a blink and you'll miss it moment. So
And
yeah,
that
I'm
was
just
from the
just
first
pulling your leg.
Star Wars movie?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm just
like-
pulling your leg.
A couple seconds in the cantina. Yeah.
Of Cantina. So would you say that they are figures worth having in a collection or not?
Depends how complete you are, I mean.
Well, if you consider that the werewolf figure, Lack
Yeah.
Sivrak, if you consider that he got a power of the Force figure,
Right.
then yes, I would say that they do deserve a figure, as much as Lack Sivrak did, as much as the Demon Face guy does.
Yeah.
I mean that they're all fleeting sort of glimpses of the figures, but I think, yeah, I mean Star Wars fans want everything, don't they?
Yeah.
They want absolutely everything. So yeah, I can see the need for those.
Okay. So Jason is now saying, so It's around £60 for that Endor bunker. You could sell the figure, get a bit back, or wait till it goes on sale before you go back to Thailand. Yeah, perhaps. Let's see. Are either of you guys a fan of that Endor bunker set?
I do quite like.
Go on, Tom.
I quite like it because, as a kid, I always wanted the Lego set of the Endor bunker, but because it was like just that bit too old that I couldn't get it. So when seeing that, I was like, okay, that is pretty cool, but I was a bit thrown off by the price. That's the only kind of barrier of me getting it.
Yeah, so I think Jason's saying like £60 in the UK. It was 60. It's currently $60 on Amazon here, and that is not a $60 value set. Absolutely not. I guess the figure is so. What do these figures sell for individually in the UK?
What the TVCs?
Yeah, TVC.
They're
about 20 quid.
Yeah, about 20.
20
depending.
quid.
You can pick them up on sale sometimes for
Yeah.
15, 16, but I think they're about 20 quid each. They're just under the price of a Black Series figure.
So basically 40 quid, $40 for what is basically a doorway then.
Yeah. It's not a bad set. I think they could have done with a few more paint apps and a few more washes on some of the moss and stuff that's growing around it.
Yeah.
I think for the price, it could have been there could have been some more paint apps maybe. I agree. I think it's a bit too much to ask. $60 for that is it's a bit steep. It's a nice looking set, but it doesn't really do anything. Okay, you can open the doors, I think, but there's not much to it. I think the little panel opens. The one where they try and they're trying to open the doors. The little panel I think opens, and there's some paint apps and stuff inside there, but I think it's a little pricey for what it is.
So as things stand, I picked up the Tantive 4 Corridor for I think it was circa $31, $32 on Amazon with free shipping.
Yeah,
got that. Ended up selling the figure for about $16.
Right.
So all in all, out of pocket, I'm guessing that Corridor cost me about $20.
Yeah.
Which I am more than happy with. In my opinion, that's what that thing is probably worth.
Yeah.
But it just seems so sad that in order to sort of justify the cost with these modern toys, you have to then start selling parts of it to recoup the money for the part you really need.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Sorry.
So I'll catch up with the chat real quick here. So Electric Football Hero says the Tonika sisters were on screen in episode 4 for about 2 seconds, merchandising. It's funny, again, whilst Star Wars was a huge part of my life from 1980 to 1984, I've seen the first movie multiple times. I cannot remember any sisters in that movie. I do remember Wolfman or the Demon Man.
Mm-hmm.
I do not remember these sisters.
Yeah, no, they weren't on screen long.
Oh, but Jason wants those sisters. And then Josh says, yes, they are the Tonika sisters. As far as the actresses who played them, one has since passed away. Okay.
Yeah, well, neither of them gave their permission for the likeness rights.
Okay.
So that's why there were never any figures made of them at all, because they both refused the likeness rights.
Twin sisters are in the Cantina scene, so clearly I need to go back and just watch that scene again. Bearded Geek Toys reviews. To me, 3.75 line is the original Palatoy Star Wars figures I had back when I was a kid. I much prefer the 6-inch Black Series for display purposes. TVC just doesn't do it for me. I I agree with that. Well, whilst I agree with it doesn't do it for me, I also don't think Black Series does it for me, but maybe I'm unique in this. I don't know. Esfa says, hi, Monkey Boy, good to see you. Hi to
Hello,
Tom
sir.
from
Hello.
Esfa. Jaws, yes, we have a difference of opinion, which is allowed, but as Dean has said, go respectful and understanding of each other's opinions. Yeah, here's the thing, though. Just because I don't like a certain line of toys is not reason to go sending nasty messages or racial slurs or sexist slurs at your partner or anything like that. The whole toy or adult toy collecting scene sometimes gets a bit out of hand, and we have to take a step back and realize these are toys. We may have different opinions, and that is perfectly okay.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, Dean. I'm going to be perfectly civil to you on the stream, but afterwards, I'm going to give you some real hassle.
Yes, well, again, on that very subject, I have always respected your right not to open toys.
That's true.
I may not agree with it, but I respect it.
That's true.
Yes. Hello, Dina Monkey Boy. That's from Left 4 Dead Fett.
Hey, Left 4 Dead.
MDR says, I like TVC because it displays like real vintage at a fraction of the cost. The retro collection is even better in that regard, except for those damn stickers. I only collect OT stuff. Yep, that's a good point right there.
Mm.
However, with the retro collection stuff.
Yeah.
I was in HMV with my dad the other day, and so we came across some of the new Jello retro collection stuff, and they're probably about 16 quid or whatnot. But depending on which vintage figure you get, whether it be Skiff Guard, whether it be whatnot, I reckon that like at half the cost you could get the retro collection, which is fair enough. But then like if you just pay that bit more, then you can actually get the original thing, which so I mean, maybe I've just inherited my dad's thing of like, oh, it must all be original, but I personally I'd rather go for the original deal than like the imitation, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Because the fact of the matter is, some of these figures that I keep saying Kenner, that Hasbro has chosen to re-release as part of retro collections with things like Lando's Skiff Guard, and in the upcoming wave, Admiral Akbar. Those are figures that are probably cheaper to get the originals of online than they are to buy a brand new retro collection version. And we're talking complete with when I say weapon, Akbar had his stick. But the point is, you can get a complete vintage figure for pretty much the same price as Hasbro will charge you for their reproduction. So, vintage for me anyway. Wally Gog. Oh, that's a nice switch on things that could have been problematic. The Tonika sisters are long overdue in the vintage collection. In fact, they are long overdue in any figure form, but I think Monkey Boy explained why that was the case. Ed 5 is here, and he is up. Hang on. Let me just check my world clock. This is bizarre. Currently, it is 6:05. Okay. AM. I guess you're up early, then. It's good to see you here.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Oh, also, anyone watching this who isn't aware, some buggers broke into Dan's storage unit and nicked all his collection. So I'm going to be speaking with Dan, Ed5, and we're going to try and do something to rectify this, because that is not cool. I think that's every collector's worst nightmare.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, I hope everything gets recovered. Like that would just be kind of like if the collection just went, I'd just be devastated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really, it's despicable. MDR, been thinking about focusing solely on the Jabba the Hutt sequence in Return of the Jedi and getting rid of all the rest. My first TVC sets were the Tatooine Skiff and Jabba's Palace action set. Lovely boxes. Oh yeah, because they did do like Jabba's Palace, but without actually doing Jabba. Is that right? It's just like a wall with a couple of busts. But like there's a Tauntaun bust, and what's the other bust? Is it a Wampa or?
It wasn't a Wampa. Oh, I know the creature. It's just the name is left me. It'll come to me eventually.
But it's like an interesting sort of set, and I guess if you have the Han in a carbonite set from the vintage Kenner line, that would look pretty good in there. But again, and I think from memory, didn't that set come with 2 figures?
Yeah, the Han Solo and then the reuse as well.
So I guess initially they were doing 2 figures per play set, and then they're gradually, cutting back, and now you only get the 1 figure. But if anyone knows how much that Jabba's Palace thing cost initially, please do comment. And didn't they do a recent Jabba's Palace type thing, but based on the Book of Boba Fett that came out?
Yeah.
But that's I think was quite costly, was it not?
It's something like 200 quid.
I think it was a lot. I mean, they essentially released it. It kind of they did the throne, Jabba's throne, but the actual throne itself, not the block that he sits on, but the throne that Boba Fett sat in.
Yeah.
So they did that and the background, and then now they've released what is his throne, that big kind of movable slab thing. And I think that was about $80.
Oof. Impossible Pie says, I'd love to see retro style figures from the prequels. Darth Maul, yeah.
Definitely.
Honestly, that's a good point, because if anything, Retro Collection keeps pumping out figures from these modern TV shows that are anything but retro, whereas the prequels are at this point quite retro in terms of time frame. So they should be doing that with these.
The recent announcement from Hasbro when they were showing their pipeline figures, Darth Maul is in that selection, and they showed the pipeline version.
Oh, really?
I think so. Yeah. Let me check.
Collection.
I've got the list here actually of the stuff they brought out.
Ed is saying
I did have
sound deal.
Maybe I
don't. Go for it. Painting says hello. Good day, Left 4 Dead. Good day, Jason. And Impossible Pie says, can we get rid of retro style? Oh, please, can we get retro style Spaceball figures? But wasn't the deal that they could make the movie on the condition there was no merchandise?
Yeah, you won't see any merchandise for Spaceballs.
Yeah,
it was a stipulation of the agreement.
Right. Good day. I think the bunker set can look nice as a display piece for vintage figures. Indeed, looks a bit pricey. For that price, they could have included a few extra parts or a backdrop. Yeah. And Dan is saying the Tonika sisters have only been done by customizers. Okay. Again, Monkey Boy explains the whole rights issue. MDR says, what I really don't get is Black Series and G.I. Joe Classified. There is no nostalgia involved. That's it for me. And that, for me, the whole reason I do this is because of nostalgia. So if something doesn't pull at these nostalgia strings, I have absolutely no interest, which is why things like Stan Solo and Hasbro's Retro Collection really work for me, because getting those items in hand, it's like going back in time and being 10 years old again. Whereas when I go to Target or Walgreens, and I pick up a Black Series figure in this great big box with sort of diagonal cuts going one way and this window here and this big figure, it doesn't mean anything to me. I just have no interest in it whatsoever. I mean, yes, I do love Star Wars. As I said earlier, from 1980 to 84, that was the be-all and end-all of my existence. But for me, it's all about that period of time. So the modern stuff does not pull at my heartstrings in any way, shape, or form. So Monkey Boy, I'd love to know, what is it about the modern stuff that really grabs you in?
Well, I remember the first time I ever saw a Black Series figure, and it was years ago. And the line hadn't been out very long, and I saw, and it was a Han Solo, and I remember seeing it and just thinking, wow, I would have loved that as a kid. And I think that's what appeals to me about them. I definitely understand the nostalgia for the vintage figures, and I collect those as well, and I love those as well. I mean, one of my favorite vintage figures of all time, I've got right here, Leia Bouche.
Let me make it big here.
So that's the vintage.
Yeah,
that's a vintage Kenner Leia Bouche.
Right. Now, how are you attaching that rifle to her back there?
That's my fault.
It tucks under her arm.
Okay. Because
the handle just tucks under her arm.
I only found out in recent years, I don't think it was intended, but you can stick the helmet on the backpack to keep it in storage.
Okay.
Please.
It looks like you haven't set up any
home. Please attempt such a feat. Oh, there we go. Oh, wow. Look at that.
Cool.
You learn something every day.
Learn something today. Yeah, no, there's a little there's a little gap that's made under her arm. I don't know if you can see
that.
it.
Yeah, I do.
And you just pop the handle of her, whatever that lance thing is. You just tuck that in there, and it displays fine.
Because
I really weird.
I really like. Oh, sorry, Tom. Go on.
So I've always thought that I've always loved that figure. But at the same time, I've always thought that she just has like a really weird arm, like up here for no apparent reason. But so I now I know.
Yep. There you go. That's so you can tuck that in. But I mean, so I really do like the vintage figures. I don't have a complete collection of them, and I'm not looking to get a complete collection of them. I want the ones I had when I was a kid. So I've got quite a lot of them.
Yeah.
And I really do like those. But I also like action figures. And like I said, when I first saw that Han Solo Black Series figure, I was blown away by the detail, by the articulation, and I just thought, man, if this was out when I was a kid, I would have definitely been into this. So the adult in me likes the vintage toys, but actually the kid in me actually prefers the newer ones because I just find them, and I've got the Black Series Bouche here.
Let me
which I think is essentially the vintage. I think the vintage collection Bouche, which is here in the box, I think is the same figure as the Black Series 3.75, although it's not actually 3.75, it's more like 3 inches. The face sculpt is different. The vintage collection has got a much nicer face printing on it, and it looks a lot better. But I think it's essentially the same figure. But I like that a lot.
Yeah.
And then I've also got the Black Series, the 6-inch version as well, because I really love the character. Now, if you asked me which one I would keep out of all of them, it would probably be the original.
Okay, good.
The original one, because I just loved that figure so much as a kid, and I think nostalgia plus, nostalgia alone would make me keep that one. But it doesn't stop me really loving the vintage. Sorry, the Black Series version, and it doesn't stop me loving the vintage collection. I have a few vintage collection figures. I've got one here, for example, Bib Fortuna. Now, this one is actually better than the Black Series 6-inch version. The 6-inch version has got a plastic robes, and essentially it's a traffic cone. Whereas the vintage collection, bizarrely, have got soft goods. Now, you would think it would be the other way around, because soft goods obviously scale better the larger the figure is. So it was a surprise to me that they had soft goods on the vintage collection. But actually, I think the vintage collection is a superior figure to the Black Series one. I've got
signed, by the way. Sorry,
you got it signed.
Yeah, basically. So me and my dad, we go to a bunch of conventions like all around the country. And last year, I more collect the figures as a hobby really, but my dad, he does it for the to get them signed pretty much.
Okay.
So he's so while he has so he got it for the intent of being signed. So we kind of find a compromise there. So it's kind of like, so I'll do it for kind of like the joy of going, oh wow, now that's a really cool figure, got some really cool, details on it, and then he'd be like, yeah, but the card back signed. So
Right. Oh, cool. Have you got many signed card backs?
A lot, quite a few. In fact, people in the chat don't pulverize, I do have some. But I do have a vintage, like a vintage signed, which is low grade. It was one of my first ever figures being. No, it was my first ever figure being signed, and it was of. And it was of the. So I met the actor. Actor was a really nice person. So then we bring up the figure, and then he's like really surprised, like, "Whoa, wait, you have this? What is this? Your dad's?" And then like my dad was like, "Nope, mine's long gone." So yeah.
Oh, cool. Cool. Have you got a Boba Fett signed?
We definitely have got Jeremy Bullock's signature. I can't remember if we have. Oh wait, no, I do have a Boba Fett signed.
Cool.
Which one is it? I think it's the retro collection one, which we have signed.
Nice.
But we because we have like all different. I mean, and sorry, I tell a lie. I have two Boba Fett signed. The other one is the Power of the Force 2 one from the 90s, which my dad bought. It's got every kind of signature of Boba Fett, bar 2, which is of like the Tamil Morrison, who played, of course, Jango Fett. He did him in Mandalorian and stuff.
Yeah.
And of I think a Stuntman, which, because my dad is also an autograph collector, he has his autograph anyway. So yeah.
Okay. Oh, cool.
Oh, awesome.
Nice one.
Yeah.
Do you want to catch up with any chat, Dean?
Yeah, I'm going to do that right now. So Jaws is saying the two girls in the green jumpsuits with beehive hairstyles. Okay, I'll need to go back and watch this again. Stan Solo, yes, he is indeed. Still waiting to see a decent diorama version of the freezing chamber from Empire. Again, this goes back to Vintage Collection. They did that god-awful stairway set that I believe you had to buy two of them to make the sort of diorama they displayed on their commercial.
Yeah.
But it just looks so flimsy and...
Yeah, half a set for $50 or whatever it was.
And wasn't there some sort of scandal whereby they displayed it in their commercial or their online promotion with a figure that was no longer in circulation? And therefore, to get that figure, you have to pay eBay prices or something or other. It was a whole big mess up. But that is not a set that in any way, shape, or form grabbed my interest.
I was disappointed by that because I was trying to like it because it's a scene which I was obsessed with when watching Empire. It's seen like, I mean, the set of it, like the actual physical, where they filmed it, I just thought was magical, stuff like that. And then when I heard, it was only a couple of days before they did the reveal, and I was like, oh my goodness, it's gonna be good. It's gonna be really good. And then revealed it, and I'm like, like, please make it be good. Like,
I mean, isn't it true to say that some of the best scenes in Star Wars occurred on Bespin?
definitely.
And yet, Kenner basically ignored it all. They gave us the twin pod, or this was it twin pod cloud car.
Yeah.
They gave us that and the two, one pilot. They gave us Lobot, Ugnaught, Bespin guards, and that was about it, really, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. It would have been nice to have had a playset of the weather vane, maybe.
Yeah.
So you could, but I don't quite know how that would have worked actually in reality, because obviously you've got the underneath section of Bespin, and then you've got the weather vane hanging down. So I suppose I don't know how that would have looked in reality, but
or did they do a cardboard set? I forget.
They did. It was a Sears exclusive back
Sears
in
exclusive. Okay.
Yeah. But they also did, of course, like the micro collection stuff, which since I found out that existed, I'm like, okay, I need this.
Yeah,
but
that was a cool thing.
I can't seem to find them in the UK. I'm not sure if it's an exclusive US thing or I don't know.
Okay, as someone who was there when it all happened in the UK, I don't ever remember seeing micro collection for sale ever. That's not to say it wasn't for sale, but I don't remember seeing it as a kid.
Right.
But yes, they did a pretty good Bespin set that you could assemble various components to make pretty much everything there was.
Yeah.
So Darth Wizzy Wizard just got here.
Was he?
And Dan was just getting ready for work. So yeah, obviously early morning in Australia. Hey, Darth Wizzy Wizard. Good day. Hi, Dean. Do you remember to reissue boxed G1 Transformers I've sent you? Yes. I actually displayed them in a collection tour. I think I did last summer. But once things get set up in Thailand, absolutely, you will see your Transformers very much front and center of that Transformers collection. But again, thank you so much. Incredibly kind of you. I can see many Akbar retro figures being sold on eBay. I only want 3 out of that set. Well, actually, Jason, you're absolutely correct, because as it stands, I don't know what happened, but Hasbro in the US have messed up somehow, because that box set was supposed to have been in my possession about 3 weeks ago, but it's not coming until November 15 now. And of that set, I want one Mon Mothma. So, sorry, let me go back. I ordered 2 sets, but I need one Mon Mothma. I need 2 Gamorrean guards and 2 Emperor's Royal Guards, and the rest I really don't need. I want the 2 guards because it's actually cheaper to purchase 2 sets of retro collection to get 2 mint Emperor's Royal Guards rather than source vintage ones online for the sake of my display.
Yeah.
And I figure what I don't need, I can just sell to offset the cost.
So which is the other one?
A Gamorrean Guard. I want 2 of them.
Yeah. What's the one that you don't want?
Well, I don't need any more Admiral Akbars or Wickets or... Hang on, what's the set? Hang on, there are 6 figures. Mon Mothma, Gamorrean Guard, Imperial Royal Guard, Wicket, Yak Face, and Akbar.
Right.
So I don't need anything except one Mon Mothma just to add to the collection. And I'll take the 2 Gamorrean Guards for my Jabba display and 2 Emperor's Royal Guards for my Emperor's display.
Yeah.
But the rest, and again, this, I think Hasbro, they don't really understand what vintage people like myself really want from their reissues, because I've done a video on this, and in my opinion, Wicket is one of the worst Star Wars figures ever made. Because as a boy in 1983 or 84, I did not want little cute teddy bears. I wanted angry, violent Sith Lords or sort of army-looking stormtroopers, etc. I didn't want cute teddy bears.
I didn't really like most of the Ewoks. I liked Wicket, I must say. I did like him. And I liked, is it Chief Chirper, the one with the skull on his head? With the...
That's Logray.
Oh, is it? Oh, yeah. So the one with the skull and the spiky bits on his head.
I think Chief Chirper, if you remember, the whole thing on the back of the cards, there were 2 blacked out Ewoks.
Right.
I think one of those was Chief Chirper and the other was Logray.
Yep.
Those were the first 2, I believe. I could be wrong.
Is that right, Tom?
Yeah. And even on my Logray cabbage, I got signed. The figures are still blanked out on there, even despite the fact that, you know.
But there were 2 forms of blackout. There was a straight up square blackout, but there was also a fuzzy felt type cloth thing put over those figures, I believe. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, I guess back in 83, I bought into the hype because we got the first Jedi figures and we saw on the back of the card these 2 mysterious figures. And then word got out, probably by way of the Star Wars comic, whether it was weekly or bi-weekly, I forget. But then on one of the visits to the local town where I lived, and they had a John Menzies store who sold Star Wars figures, I saw what was one of those blacked out figures. So I bought the Chief Chirper, and that was the one and only Ewok I owned as a kid. So for me, Chief Chirper would have been a better Ewok for this retro collection than Wicket. But I guess with Wicket being the actor, what's his name, Davies?
Warwick
Davies. I guess with him being somewhat of a personality, it made sense on that part of things to put him in retro collection. But for me, I would have put Chief Chirper. But
right.
So of the, I guess they gave us what, 8 Ewoks in total? Yeah, 8, right?
I think so.
That was a lot of figures to be taken up by this subset of characters that most fans didn't really enjoy. But of the 8, which is your favorite Ewok figure?
Logray. Logray.
I think mine would be. Did you say it was Logray, Tom, with the skull on his head?
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, that would be my favorite.
Logray. Now, was he Logray and in parentheses Medicine Man?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And then when I was completing my collection, I felt somewhat bit anticlimactic that my last ever figure was, I think it was Romba.
Right, yeah.
And it was a rather expensive figure and one that I really don't care to look at too much.
Yeah, that was quite an anticlimax to the run, wasn't it? But
yeah,
it's got to be done. It's got to be done if you want them all.
Right. So Ed is saying that the Jabba's set comes with Reese, and the creatures, I guess the skull was a Gerbra.
That's the one.
Now, is that what? Is that a futuristic gerbil? I have no idea. Martin says, Retro Collection should be doing more figures from the OT that we never had, correct? There were a good few Imperial captains and admirals that would be a great addition to the general viewers. Absolutely.
I love some pilots.
Ed is saying it was a has plus deal. Okay. Awesome news. Martin Ralph. That set is 700 down here. Hang on, I've lost track of the chat. But what is?
Was it the throne room?
The throne room. Good Lord.
Wow.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Just me. Great live stream. Love the exchange of thoughts. Oh, thank you so much.
Thanks, man.
Can we get a retro Rancor? Now, maybe I'm alone in this. As a kid, I saw the Rancor on the shelves in the stores, and I did not care for it one bit.
Really? I really wanted one.
Really?
Yeah, I never had one, but I did want one. I wanted the do you remember I think last year they had the HasLab Rancor that they were trying to get.
Yeah.
And it didn't make the backers, so I was totally up for that.
But that was based on a 6-inch figure, is that correct?
Yeah, yeah.
That thing must have been massive.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I would have. I was looking forward to that working, but it didn't. We didn't get it.
Yeah,
which is a shame.
Now going back to that, this is where I sometimes wonder how I got into Star Wars, because I've said this before. Without question, my first figure was one of two figures. It was either Darth Vader or the Imperial Hoth Stormtrooper. I don't remember which order it came in, but I also had at that time the Tauntaun with open belly feature.
Oh, yeah.
But I honestly don't think I chose that for myself. I think that was thrust upon me because as a kid, if I was faced with bearing in mind back in the 80s, it was wall-to-wall Star Wars toys.
Yeah.
There's no way I would have picked out of the whole lineup, I would have picked a Tauntaun.
Right,
so I'm guessing my parents just said, here, take this. Again, my first vehicle was the PDT-8, which is a pretty uncool looking thing. It's like a space taxi.
Is that the orange one?
No, that was the vehicle that has like, it's basically a sort of hexagonal shape with two thrusters and two doors that open at the back. It's a mini rig.
Yeah.
But it's probably the most uncool mini rig. So bearing in mind that my first Star Wars toys encompassed a Tauntaun, which is basically a space donkey, and the PDT-8, which is a space taxi, I don't think I chose those. Surely I didn't. Because, I mean, bearing in mind, in the 80s, you would walk into any department store, be it John Menzies, Woolworths, whatever, and it was wall-to-wall Star Wars toys.
Yeah.
And obviously, there would have been a budget in place, say £5 maximum. So I wasn't getting AT-ATs or Millennium Falcons. But I don't think as a, let me think, 7-year-old, I would have said, yeah, give me the space donkey or give me the space taxi. So someone somewhere was making that choice for me. Am I wrong here?
No, I think that's about right.
Yeah. But in saying that, though, when I look back at those things that I have once again, I do really enjoy my Tauntaun and my PDT-8 because those were where it all began for me.
Yeah.
The Tauntaun is very nice. Like I have that. I got it for my birthday a couple years ago. I mean, the box is in so-so condition, but it's like above my desk. It's like proudly sitting there next to my Corgi Batmobile, which I've had like all my childhood.
Oh, fantastic.
And like my speeder bike, and then I have like some Indiana Jones stuff at the end, and I have my kind of bounty hunters in a line. But I mean, like I really love that. I mean, I try and kind of like the range is split, which is annoying.
Yeah,
but I can live with it. Like it is because the person I bought it off, I go there quite often to get my Star Wars figures. It's basically an antiques place. I've been going there since they opened.
Right.
The shop, not the antiques place. But what he did a deal where I got the Tauntaun, and then he included a Luke Hoth complete with it. Yeah. So like I got the Luke Hoth on top of the Tauntaun just proudly on my shelf. It is a really cool figure.
Fantastic. Now, in terms of vintage collection, have they done a lot of Hoth vehicles or creatures?
I think they did Tauntaun like right at the start, but then they've done an AT-AT. They've done 2 versions of the AT-AT. They did one from Empire and then one from Jedi, like the Jedi the Endor version. I mean, I really want. When I was a kid, I saw that Endor version and I thought, okay, that looks like the Hoth version, but cooler, you know? Because it had like all the different weathering and whatnot, and I just thought, okay, if I had a choice, the one with a bit more looks better, but I think,
I haven't got any room for any more AT-ATs, sadly.
No. So Nick is saying, I've not done it myself, but I've loved seeing people who have displayed their vintage 80s toys in modern dioramas like Tantive 4. I'd love to see some 80s ROTJ figures in New Jabba's Palace. So Nick, if you haven't already done so, check out my video on Stan Solo, whereby I put his figures into the Tantive 4 playset, and it definitely works rather well.
Yeah.
I think you're missing out big time, Dean. No, honestly, I'm not. Again, I'm not trying to be like weird about this, but for me, my memories of Star Wars, and for that matter, pretty much every franchise I enjoyed as a child, I just want the same toys I had as a kid. And these modern representations, yes, they look nice, but they just don't do it for me. I mean,
no, I mean, you tried your hand with the Black Series, didn't you? But you didn't really feel it. You didn't feel it.
I didn't feel it. It just, I don't know. I mean, as it is in an upcoming video, you will see my ever-expanding collection of Corgi cars from the 80s or 70s, in fact, because that is what I remember playing with as a child, and to see them again, it just makes me so happy. And it's just like it's the next best thing to a time machine, whereby you can hold a toy in package from like 1978 and feel like that, 4-year-old boy again. And Black Series, the vintage collection, doesn't do that. The only thing that came close to doing that is Retro Collection.
Yeah.
So that's why and that's the thing though. People will say, "Oh, you hate Hasbro." No, I don't hate Hasbro, because they give me a Retro Collection that I love. I just don't like this modern take on the toys I enjoyed as a kid. And I don't think I'm alone in thinking that. I think other people have commented to say sort of something similar.
Yeah, I think so. And I wouldn't say you're missing out, because you don't feel anything when you see those new modern figures. So I wouldn't say you're missing out necessarily. I think in a way it's a shame that you're not excited by them. I mean, when I see the vintage collection or Black Series, like I said, it's if they were available when I was a kid, I'd have bitten your hand off to get them. They would have absolutely blown me away. And I think that's why I enjoy collecting them now, is because the kid in me wishes that they were available in the 80s.
Right.
That's not to say I don't like the vintage 5 POA, because I do. And for example, I like the Super 7 reaction line, and they're a 5 POA figure. Yep. So I don't have any real issue with the limited articulation. I think the reaction figures look wonderful. I think for the most part they're fantastic. So it's not necessarily an articulation thing for me. I will admit that I do like the detail and the face printing on modern figures. I do think they look good. But I mean, this one will really annoy you, Dean, because not only do I have I got some vintage collection figures, but I've actually got here some vintage collection figures that are from the Solo movie.
Okay.
So not even original trilogy.
Let me bring you up. Can you show us this? Who's this?
This is Enfys Nest from the Solo movie. I liked the movie, and I really liked this character. I thought this character was brilliant. And I've also got here a range trooper. I've got a couple of these. So I've got one. I have one each standing either side of Enfys Nest, flanking her in my display. So I mean that's two evils in one. It's TVC and it's not even original trilogy.
So what irks me about that is the fact that they have taken what to me was my childhood image of a Star Wars card back,
right,
and used it for something that is neither vintage or retro in any way, shape, or form. I really don't like that. Why have they taken their own, design and gone with it? But why borrow from the past for something that has nothing to do with the past?
Oh, you see, I really like that, because for me it's the best of both worlds. Because, for example, here on Boosh, I've got a modern figure with a modern face printing, looks really good, but it also gives me that nostalgic feel of the card back. So it's interesting, isn't it? It annoys you, but for me, it's sort of, that's a selling point for me. So that's quite interesting.
Go ahead, Tom.
I love that kind of stuff, because obviously, I mean, I didn't grow up in the 80s. I mean, if I did, I would have aged really well. But I mean, something I love about those kind of figures is they're taking that unique style and they're branding it into something which it's sort of introducing that to people who maybe wouldn't have been able to experience that kind of stuff. And obviously, I mean, I was aware of the vintage line for quite a while. I mean, I didn't get my dad's ones because my dad gave his away before I was born. He gave them away to his nephews or cousins or something, and then they basically trashed them, which was a pain in the ass because, oh, sorry, swear, but which was a bit of a pain because he kept them in mint condition as well. But then, when I got into Star Wars, of course, there were all these lines. There was Power of the Force 2. There was the current line, which is the movie Heroes, which is like 10 years old now. It just makes me feel ancient. But so stuff like that. And then when I found out about the vintage line, it was actually through the Boba Fett and the Bespin Han Solo.
Do you mean the vintage collection, the modern ones?
No, the vintage.
Vintage. Okay.
Yeah, vintage.
See, this is where it gets confusing. You're right, Dean. They should. I totally think that the vintage collection is the wrong name for it.
Yeah.
I think someone said it earlier on. I forget who it was, but there was a comment much earlier on in the stream, and someone said that they think that the vintage collection should have just been called the modern collection, which is fine. Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think it's the wrong name. Yeah. Anyway, sorry, Tom, go on.
Well, in like adding to what you said, like when talking to the vintage collection as in the modern collection to my dad, I just refer to it as modern vintage, which probably raises some questions. But it kind of describes what it is without being too complicated. When coming to that, like, I mean, I was really obsessed with those kind of vintage figures when I found out about the Boba Fett and the Bespin Han Solo, and I was like, okay, this is my quest. Like, I've been assigned a quest by God to receive the vintage figures. But I was just like obsessed with them, and then I came into other vintage lines like the Kenner Indiana Jones figures, which I've only now managed to acquire a couple because they are very hard to find, but I love those figures. And then there's like the Kenner Superpowers, which I'm not that bummed. I'm not that bummed out because I don't have them because of course I pretty much grew up with the Corgi Batmobiles, which they are just like the best. But I mean, back to like but yeah. So and then the vintage collection, I find out about the vintage collection, and then I like look at them because they are like the vintage figures, but then they are that step up. Now I was like 7 years old. Please don't like, but they were that step up like in visually step up. So I really liked them, and then but it was kind of when they started doing stuff from the newer films when I was a bit about it. But then there was like a part of me which was a bit iffy about it, and then there was a part of me that really liked it because it's bringing those old figures back into that. The new figures into that old style, which I really like.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Makes complete sense. So SVAT is saying, what I experience is a bit of Star Wars tiredness. That reflects in my interest in the action figures. I still appreciate reproduction and custom related to the original trilogy in the Kenner style. Well, that's what I am as well. And only one Kenobi is saying, posability of figures is a big factor of the TVC. When I was a kid, sure, I loved 5POA in my hand. Now I love ultimate display ability on my shelves. Once posed, I barely touch them. Nick, if you're still watching, please follow the link and join us if you can. I'd love to hear your perspective.
Definitely.
MDR, to clarify my earlier statement that TVC displays like real vintage at a fraction of the cost, I meant MOC displaying. Real vintage MOCs are ludicrously expensive. I only have 5-ish real ones. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. But in my experience, so again, I've handled, I think, 3 vintage collection MOCs that I've since. No, I opened 2 and got rid of 1. But in each case, the MOC, it didn't look right because the way it was put in the bubble, the arms were like kind of, like this type of thing. Because there are so many points of articulation, whoever puts it into the bubble has to be very careful to make sure it's lined up perfectly, and that doesn't always happen.
Yeah.
So you end up with like really weird looking figures inside a bubble.
Yeah.
Beauty Geek Toy says, Monkey Boy really summing up there why I love collecting Black Series, but also doesn't stop me loving my original Palatoy / Kenner figures, as well as the retro collection. Yeah.
Well, definitely.
Dorothy, yes, I have Jeremy Bullock's, and I did say Bullock's signature too on the TVC rocket firing Fett variant. Now,
that's nice.
Now, do you think when Jeremy was back in school, was the term bollocks around back then, do you think?
Yeah, it must have been.
So you reckon he was picked on?
Yeah, good chance of it, yeah.
Oh,
probably.
So
yeah.
Are we talking, what, 1950s?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah. Now, but bollocks is very much an English sort of UK phrase, right?
Yeah.
So had he been American, no problem. But because he was in the UK, there's a good chance his name would have been mocked, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Jaws asks, what is the story of merchandise of the Star Wars Holiday Special? I have no idea. And in fact, I've only seen segments of that special. I have not sat through the whole thing. Panel, have you watched the whole thing?
Not the whole thing, no. It's actually a car crash of a program.
Yeah. Tom, how was it?
Terrible. It was very bad, but
Yeah.
it's kind of like, I do like very cheesy things. Like
Right.
I like when it comes to television, I like that era of kind. So when I watched it, I was thinking, my God, this is bad, but I'm loving every second of it. Like, like the only bit I started cringing is the end bit when Carrie Fisher starts singing. Like, I mean, no offense to Carrie Fisher, but that wasn't very good. But other than that, I did really enjoy it.
I didn't enjoy seeing Chewie with his wife and kids. That was, for me, I was like, Chewie is a badass, and here he is, you know, playing the whole domestic husband and parent thing. That really didn't do it for me.
So,
I was like, no.
Can you imagine after the Death Star battle, just like after like the medal ceremony, and then he just goes back to Kashyyyk, and then in Wookiee be like, "Honey, I'm home."
Yeah.
Oh, how was work destroying the Empire? Oh yeah, it was all right.
I know it was silly, wasn't it? That whole and what was it they called it?
Life Day.
He had that's Life Day, and he had that kind of orb thing. I mean, no, that's no, come on.
On a similar topic, what's the thoughts on the Star Wars Muppets special?
I watched that years ago. Like,
I don't remember.
From what I remember,
really?
From what I remember of it.
No, I happened to catch some recently. It's quite cringy, but it is cool to see Mark Hamill in the Bespin fatigues,
right,
interacting with Miss Piggy and Kermit, and of course, maybe we can do another show about this. But yeah, it was absolutely cringy. But don't forget as well, us lads being from the UK, we also had Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher on Blue Peter.
Blue Peter,
promoting Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
Well, didn't they? What were they advertising? Like, I've seen it on YouTube. Like, weren't they advertising like some kind, like, obviously Empire Strikes Back, but like, I'm pretty sure that they were doing like some kind of like Star Wars themed food recipe or something.
I'm sure they were. Absolutely, yeah. Well, again, it made a nice change from having elephants shooting in the studio. So to see Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher was probably a big relief to the production crew. But yeah, so I also, though, as a kid in the 80s, I do remember seeing that. And they would show clips from the movie, but having not even seen Star Wars at that point, none of it made any sense to me.
Right. Yeah.
So as I said before, my Star Wars viewing sequence, I think, was I saw Star Wars, I saw Return of the Jedi, and then I finally saw Empire Strikes Back. Right. So what Blue Peter were promoting made absolutely no sense to me whatsoever.
With my dad, the way he watched Empire first, but my granddad was really late to the cinema, so when they got in, it was like the Bespin sequence. So like when they actually got but I mean, he was like mind blown by it, and then when he watched Jedi, it was on a pirated VHS tape, he was telling me, and the first scenes he told me that he saw on the telly was just of biker scouts, and he was just like, oh my goodness, these are so cool. And to this day, whenever I mention the biker scout Kenner figure, he always goes, that's my favorite figure. So yeah,
I was really into my speeder bike when I was younger. I really liked that. My speeder bike and the ATST, I really loved those.
I really loved my speeder bike, but that thing was so fragile. If you held it the wrong way, it would explode.
Yeah.
I really love my speeder bike. It sounds like some kind of song or something.
Yeah. Jason, which you can get off eBay from a guy who do reboxes and don't think we had the Bespin set. I'm guessing I'm so far behind. This is probably the cardboard Bespin set. Let me try and get through this quite quickly, and then we can continue the conversation. I love the aesthetics of Cloud City and Empire. A few missed opportunities by Kenner back in the day. Absolutely, they missed a trick right there. Kind of hope they get more stock 9F that of the Jedi set. Yeah, I guess that's like the second Jedi set. Loved it all. Logray, Chief Medical Ewok, right. Kenner should have stopped at 3 Ewoks and not bothered with Akbar and Medine. Well, yeah, I mean, essentially, Akbar and Medine were 2 action figures that carried pointer sticks. There was no sort of...
become a running joke.
Yeah. So. Oh, Rich is here. Good to see you, Rich. I got one, Monkey Boy. It's eating a droid. Oh, what is that?
Oh, I think you might... Are you talking about a Rancor, Jason?
Ah, okay. $700 for the new Book of Boba Fett throne room. Oh, that's obscene. Boba fans, it's spot on, Dean. Asked for Imperial shuttle, got the white turd that is the Rebel transporter. Yeah, that's the
flying pickle.
Yeah, the space pickle. Yeah, that was a weird ship / carrying case. Our youngest guest here tonight sure knows his classic stuff. Most impressive, absolutely. Nice one, Tom.
Yeah.
Derek says it's an overpriced line because it's made mostly for collectors. It's also based on an IP that is slowly becoming unpopular. Perhaps. Call it Kenner, yeah. AWM85, hello to you. Jason says, Tom, if you or your dad is in London or both Forbidden Planet, has got lots of idol figures in as I saw them today. So I guess it's an invite to meet up with Jason, which is always a nice thing to do, as I can attest. Okay, Dan has to go to work, catch up. Okay, thank you for stopping in, Dan. If you see this on replay, I guess you're probably long gone. Cheers, mate. And Jaws says, Jeremy Bulloch played Edward from the TV show Robin of Sherwood. Yeah, great show. Fully enjoyed that one.
Here's an interesting fact for you. When I was young, as you will know, Dean,
yes.
My dad owned a toy shop.
Right.
And one of the staff in the toy shop played one of the characters in the BBC Robin of Sherwood series. I think he played. It might have been Will Scarlet, but I can't remember the character that he played. But I remember the guy that worked in the shop was also an actor, and he was in Robin of Sherwood.
Now, when you said on the BBC show Robin of Sherwood, I would have said, and I would have bet my life that Robin of Sherwood was an ITV show. I have done this so many times and been wrong every time. I was convinced that Batman 66 was shown on the BBC too. Nope, that was ITV.
I might be wrong though. It might have been an ITV show. I don't remember.
Okay, so if I were a betting man, I would have said ITV, but I couldn't be entirely wrong on that. Another few things that really confused me was the switching of channels, because to me, Roland Rat was ITV all the way, but he switched to BBC apparently in the 80s. And likewise, we had Morecambe and Wise switched.
Right.
There were others, but I have done a sort of a private test to say to myself, you have 2 choices. This show was either BBC or ITV, and most of them I got wrong. And I consider myself somewhat cognizant of my childhood, but there were so many shows that I just did not get the right channel for.
Right.
So, not to offend you, Dave, but if I were to place my money on the table, I would say Robin of Sherwood was ITV.
Yeah, you might well be right.
Really?
Be right.
Well, we can check it later, and we won't fall out over this. Travels with Jason and Moore says Indy Jones in. Oh, so they've got Indiana Jones in. I guess that's the shop in London.
Yeah, Forbidden Planet. I went.
Here, the Geek Toys is saying it was ITV, but then we have Jaws saying, "Hang on." Jaws is saying it was SC4, but that's in Ireland, so I don't know how that correlates to our experience.
S4C, that's that's a Welsh channel, isn't it? Like, well, unless SC4 is the Irish one and then S4C is the Welsh one. I don't know.
Jaws, please do elaborate.
I would think Bearded Geek probably checked that out. So yeah, I stand corrected. Right. ITV.
Now,
I can't remember the name of the actor.
Yeah, with regards to Robin of Sherwood, how did you accept the fact that we went from seeing Robin Hood as being this guy with a black mullet suddenly becoming James Bond's son with a blonde mullet?
Yeah,
that didn't work.
Takes a bit of getting used to.
Yeah. Vintage Toy Rush is watching. Oh, hi, thank you for tuning in.
Hello, Dave.
Good to see you here. So I guess we're getting, we're at 1.3 hours. So just to sort of summarize, we kind of got off topic here. The whole point of this was to kind of for me to understand why it is I have no connection to Vintage Collection or Black Series, and somewhat, now when I say find it offensive, that's not the correct term. I don't find these toys offensive. I just don't like the fact that my childhood has been somewhat taken over by a modern toy line that really doesn't reflect what it was that I enjoyed as a kid. And by that, I mean the card backs. Had the Vintage Collection had a different name and a different style of card back, I wouldn't even give it a second thought. Am I wrong in being, I guess I've become a gatekeeper of sorts, because to me, that classic racing track and the name Vintage is what I remember as being Kenner from the 80s.
Yeah.
So am I wrong in this?
I don't think you're wrong, no, but I can also appreciate why the Vintage Collection have got those card backs, because it's like I said earlier, I like the modern figures, but I also am drawn to those vintage style card backs. So I think they knew, obviously they knew what they were doing in terms of marketing. I don't believe the line would have been as successful if it had been called the Modern Collection and we had a modern card back. I don't believe it would have been as successful. So in that regard, I understand and appreciate what they're doing. And I like how they display. I mean, because I keep mine in the box, I like how they look. I think they look good. So it doesn't bother me. I like all of it. I like all Star Wars figures, apart from the Bendhams. I like the rest of them. So it really doesn't fuss me. And because I keep all mine on card, if I display my Vintage Collection as I do, sort of next to each other, it gives me that retro feel. But I know that the figures inside excite me as an adult. And as I said, if these figures were available when I was a kid, I would have gone nuts for them. They would have been absolutely the best thing ever. So yeah, I've got a foot on both sides of the fence, really. I totally see where you're coming from, Dean, and I do very much agree that calling it the Vintage Collection is a little bit disingenuous, and it's left them with no option but to call the Retro Collection the Retro Collection, which to me they missed a trick there. The Retro Collection should have been called the Vintage Collection, and then I think I'd be a lot happier with the naming. But that aside, yeah, I must say I do like the vintage collection and the Black Series. I've certainly got more Black Series than I ever will have Kenner.
Really? So you have more Black Series than vintage Kenner?
Oh yeah, by a long way. I've got so, I don't know how many Black Series I've got, but I must have 150, maybe even 200. I'm not sure, but I've got a lot of Black Series, and I've got about 20 Kenner.
And is that 200 unique figures?
No, some of them I've got doubles, or in some cases triples of. But I would say I've got at least 150, I would think, unique figures, and I've got a lot of the Black Series vehicles as well, like the Snow Speeder and the Enfys Nest Swoop Bike, which is an absolutely amazing vehicle. It looks really, really good on display. I did actually open that and display it. It's back in the box now because I kind of ran out of display room, but that was a fantastic vehicle. Looks really, really good. But no, I went all in on the Black Series to begin with when I first started collecting it because I thought it was amazing. I bought one or two thinking, oh, I'll just get a couple of my favorite characters, and then I fell in love with them and just kept getting more and more.
Okay, so this is confession.
Certainly cheaper than collecting vintage Kenner.
Yeah. So this is definitely a confession time. So back in May of, I think it was 2012, my parents came to visit, and I back then was already thinking back to childhood and things I enjoyed. And it happened to be my birthday in May. And they said, okay, whatever you want for your birthday, let's go into Manhattan and we will buy you a birthday gift. So I said, you know what? I've seen adverts for Star Wars Lego. I quite fancy some Star Wars Lego. So for my birthday that year, I got a X-Wing and a TIE Fighter.
That was my first ever bit of Star Wars anything, that X-Wing.
Yeah.
I still have it. Wings, I know where, like, the wings are, but the wings are, like, so it's more of just kind of like an I-wing, if you will.
Yeah. And so from that moment, I said to myself, okay, that's enough Lego. I got an X-Wing, a TIE Fighter, I'm good. But of course, I wasn't good. I then got really heavily into Lego Star Wars, but only from the first 3 movies. So roundabout, I guess it may have been 2012, 2013. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but one lunchtime, I went to Toys R Us in Times Square to pick up some new Star Wars Lego, which I think may have been the droid escape pod with R2-D2 and C-3PO. And I remember standing in line to purchase this Lego set and seeing what would have been either Black Series orange line or Black Series blue line. I forget which one it was. But I thought to myself, ooh, that looks interesting. Should I? And I mulled it over and I thought, no, don't need this. But I could easily have been there at the beginning of Black Series.
Yeah.
But I decided to pass it on by. And I'm actually glad I did, because as I've said, now, here's the thing though, I do have in my possession some Black Series, some vintage collection that people have very kindly sent to me. And probably my 2 favorite Black Series are the Christmas themed.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah. And I bring them out every year. So we got Stormtrooper with his Christmas sweater, and I believe it's C-3PO dressed up with a scarf and all sorts.
Oh, yeah,
but it was the Christmas gimmick that got me in. Aside from the Christmas gimmick, I would not be pursuing Black Series figures as a collection.
Right.
I don't know. I don't know what it is, but for me, the whole idea behind collecting is about recreating childhood memories.
Right.
And obviously, when I was a child in the 80s, there were no Black Series figures.
No.
That's why I have no connection to them. But if you are a fan of TVC or Black Series, I think that is fantastic. And I will never hate you for doing so. Although some people take things or take collecting somewhat seriously, and if you don't follow their rules or their likes, they will, go out of their way to attack you. But for me, all I'm saying is this, and this will be my final say on the subject of vintage collection and Black Series. It just doesn't appeal to me. I have no connection to it. However, if you like it, that is wonderful. Knock yourself out. But as much as I would like to be a fan of those items, I don't know why it just does not appeal to me. Is that a fair comment, or?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think so.
At the end of the day, like, I mean, personally, I like that kind of stuff. Although, I mean, when the first range of vintage collect, like the 1.0, I would have been about 5 or whatnot. Like when I started seeing those, I thought they were pretty cool. I still think they're pretty cool. I mean, I have quite a few of them, but that doesn't kind of like waver my effect on saying like, oh yes, I prefer this one, but oh no, like I mean, I won't go, oh yes, I collect the Kenner figures, but everything else, I won't ridicule everything else because that's just pedantic. I mean, I collect quite a few Star Wars lines, and then I collect some Indiana Jones here and there, some Batman, whatnot. But I personally think that vintage collection pretty cool. Like that's my opinion. I get why people don't like it. I mean, some of the choices strange, like really bizarre, but each their own. Yeah.
So Tom, let me ask you a question. When you hold your collection in your hand and you have some of your dad's vintage figures and you have these modern vintage collection or Black Series figures, do you look upon the vintage Kenners as being somewhat substandard?
Thing is, I look at the Kenner figures. I think they are cool. Like they're very well designed. I look at the modern figures and I think they are also, well, I say modern, like my limit on modern is pretty much kind of like about mid 2000s to about 2013. That's pretty much my limit for modern. I mean, I look at, depending on I see them as kind of like, most times I see them as one cohesive line. I mean, say if for display purposes, I will kind of like not elevate the vintage figures, but have kind of like give them a bit more spotlight, if you will, because they are for this whole purpose. They're the proper classic stuff. Like, I mean, my always thinking is if something's iconic, then your grandparents recognize it. My grandparents, because of course they bought them for my dad. They'll say that and go, oh yeah, your dad had that. It's like, well, I got the Millennium Falcon for Christmas. That must have been about 4 years ago now. That's crazy. But when I got that, my nan had very fond memories of buying that for my dad and saying, "Oh right, so this was, so when I got this at, and it was like, and because the majority of the box stuff I have is Palatoy, because I do have some Kenner stuff, but considering that it's in the UK, getting some Kenner stuff, it's a bit difficult. But I mean, so your answer to that question, sort of.
Right. Well, Tom, I have to say, your last statement makes me feel incredibly old. The fact that your nan remembers buying your dad some of these toys that I still hold very dear in my heart. But it's fantastic that you are continuing this trend forward, and we can all enjoy these toys going forwards.
And it's like, oh, go on.
No, please, Tom, go ahead.
Well, basically, and it's something which also with my friends as well. Like, I mean, some of we're all kind of geeks, if you were, but like a couple of my friends, like they'll understand the vintage, like the collecting thing, but they wouldn't do themselves. While a couple of my friends, they'll actually do they'll go, oh wow, they've actually started collecting. So we'll talk about. To be fair, a mate of mine that does collect, he does it like he honestly just collects some more modern stuff. He does have some vintage, like he has the Farm Boy Luke, Lando, and General Maydeen. Missing the stick for PowerPoint presentations, but but I mean it's cool because when I first joined YouTube, something you see all the time in conversations. Oh, these damn kids! All they do is they look at their mobile phones and stuff, and like that used to completely grind my gears. So I'm like, but I have Star Wars figures. But yeah, that was yeah.
So Jaws is saying yes, it was shown on ITV, but was produced by Welsh TV. Michael Praed was killed off as he went to the US for part of the dynasty, but his career flopped. So hang on. So do you remember him being killed off? I don't remember that.
No, I don't.
No. So in other words, we had the black-haired Robin Hood killed off to be replaced. But hang on, was it a direct replacement or was it a cousin, kind of like Dukes of Hazzard type situation? I don't know.
Don't remember.
Have to investigate this. Ryan says, just home from work and joining in. I only collect vintage toys, no modern stuff in my collection. My collection is very small, but only toys from the 70s and 80s. I have no feelings for modern toys. I agree with that entirely. Jaws says, the Irish connection to Robin Hood or Robin of Sherwood was the theme soundtrack performed by Clannad, correct? And Donegal in the northwest of Ireland. Dean, I'm going to change your mind. Okay, good luck with that. Please do try. Dave says we all collect for different. Yes, we all collect for different reasons. I guess my reasons are personal in that I just want to go back to my childhood. I don't collect because I want to have a whole lineup of figures. I collect because I want to have the things in my hand that I enjoyed holding as a child. And by doing so, I somehow connect to that past, and it makes me feel very happy indeed. And Dave also says, I thought my collection was purely driven by nostalgia, but realized I like the historical nature of the items as well. So collect vintage lines I didn't have as a kid. You and me both, Dave. Yep, absolutely. There's something quite special about reconnecting with a toy, or in my case, and I'm sure your case as well, sometimes getting a toy you always wanted as a kid but never had, and to finally get it after 35 40 plus years is a wonderful feeling. It really is. The incredible Mr. Nobody says the second Robin of Sherwood character, Jason Connery, was not a direct character replacement, but were they both Robin Hood or not? I need to remember this because it's been, again, I've not seen Robin of Sherwood since I saw it back in the 80s. Dave also says, Others collect for the love of a property, so collect vintage, modern, large, small, anything. Yeah, I guess there are Star Wars fans who just want Star Wars, whether it be old or new.
Yeah, I think I fall more into that category.
Really?
Probably, yeah. Like I said, I mean, I've got more Black Series than I have vintage stuff.
Oh boy! Wow.
Um,
Okay. I
you
think.
know, I do love the vintage stuff, and I would love to have, you know, the full 96 or however many is agreed upon is the total.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I'd love to have them, but I'm just not interested in spending that kind of money,
No.
and I don't really have the display space for loose figures. Really,
Right.
Ironically, I've got more space for box stuff than I have loose stuff because I can pile it up.
Yeah. True. I mean, on that very subject, I was trying to calculate space for my Star Wars figure display, and I'm going on the basis that each display stand for a vintage Star Wars figure is about 2 centimeters. And in my head, I anticipate the display encompassing circa 120 figures. And that is the Kenner 96 plus blue yak face plus Hasbro's retro collection 3 figures now, plus Stan Solo, plus the fact that, in my opinion, Small Head Han and Big Head Han are 2 figures.
Okay, yeah.
Likewise, Vinyl Cape Jawa and Cloth Jawa are 2 different figures, but hands up, mine are fake vinyl capes. I don't care. Other than that, I don't think the original line had any more figures. Like, there are paint variants, but that's not a different figure. As much as Han, big head, small head, absolutely different figures.
Okay.
So when you take into account the original 96 plus variants, plus Blue Snaggletooth, etc., plus the other 2 droids, because I think Kenner only counted R2D2 and C3PO once on the card backs, although there were 3 R2D2s, 2 C3POs.
Right, yeah.
Plus, Stan Solo has given us stuff like, you know, Slave Leia.
Yeah.
Ula,
yeah.
There was the Garandon Spy.
Oh yeah, what long snoot.
They have the white C3PO from the Hoth base. So I think I've estimated circa 120 Star Wars figures for that collection, but bearing in mind each base is about 2 centimeters across. So therefore, I think in my head I have 4 layers of 30 figures taking up 60 centimeters of space, if that makes sense. So I've got a whole lot of mathematics to work out as to how to display this stuff and how much space it's going to take up. But I also have all these damned retro collections to somehow display.
Yeah.
That I didn't really think I was going to keep, but somehow I did. And in addition to that, I've got the 3D printed unreleased 12 from CFCB Unlimited.
Yeah.
I only have 2 12-inch figures, the C3PO and the R2D2, but I do have, I still have currently my Hot Toys vintage colors Boba Fett, and in Thailand I've got a 12-inch Darth Vader that I need to somehow, like, it's become a real headache, which is why I'm so glad I don't have the modern aspect to sort of filter into this. Because bearing in mind, when you collect vintage, there's a distinct starting point and there's a distinct ending point, and that is it. Once you're done, and you can therefore plan your display accordingly But with vintage, every other month or two, they have new releases. And if you are the completist, you are never going to have enough space to accommodate that big collection.
No, that's right.
He was Robin of Huntington. So that was Sean Connery's son, was no longer Robin of Sherwood, but Robin of Huntington. How ironic that two heroes in that very small English village were both called Robin. How convenient. Book of Boba Palace playset, $250 US. It can also be used as Jabba's palace, $250. That's too much. I think you're missing the 46-year history of Star Wars figures that is appealing. No, my history of Star Wars is 1980 to 1984, and I will include 85 as a slight adjunction because I was still keeping an eye on it, although I wasn't buying it. But no, I am very much Kenner vintage. Yes, Michael Robin of Locksley was replaced by Jason Connery, Robert of Huntington. Two completely different characters who were Robin Hood. Okay. So very much a case of just accepting what they were telling you. Off topic, I'm sure you had Three's Company over in the UK. I don't think we did, but it's being reported that Suzanne Summers has passed away. She was a true 70s, 80s icon. I remember the name Suzanne Summers. And Dave says, however much space you think you need, it's not enough. It never is. Actually, so Dave, I think I saw on your stream with Tim Hayes, you were showing your new Snake Mountain. It's already taken up a big chunk of space. In your collection.
Yeah, it's up there on the top of my. I don't know if you can see it up there.
Let me give you the full screen.
I can't see what you're seeing.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, we can see that.
Yeah. That's taken up a big chunk of space already.
That's a lot of real estate right there. And that's why, on the one hand, I am so thankful not to be involved in modern collecting because it's a never-ending story. And as I'm sure Lamal would tell you himself, there's never enough space. Like I said, when you're collecting vintage, so for example, I've been on a current sort of corgi run these past few days. And whilst each carded corgi is, this size, that soon mounts up in terms of display space.
Yeah.
But I'm thankful to know there are only so many comic or cartoon corgi vehicles out there. So I can estimate roughly, okay, if I get them all, it's going to be this much. If I don't get them all, it's going to be this much. But with modern, every other month, you're having to think, oh, do I need this? Do I want this? Can I afford this? Yeah. And there's a lot of pressure because bearing in mind, unlike in the 80s, when a figure is released now, you have a small window to buy that. If you don't buy it there and then, you're going to miss out or pay scalper prices.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a fun thing to be involved with, to be honest.
No, it's bloody stressful. I mean, I've just pre-ordered my Motu Origins cartoon collection.
Mm-hmm.
The new ones that are coming out that are based on the Filmation appearance.
Right.
I pre-ordered. Well, I wanted to pre-order the first 6 that are available, but I couldn't get hold of Man at Arms. So that's causing me stress now because I don't know where I'm going to get the thing from.
Yeah.
And so, you're right. I mean, with modern collecting, you've got that little window. And so I expect I'll probably end up paying scalper prices for Man at Arms because I can't pre-order him anywhere else. I'll keep my eyes on the situation and see if I can get him somewhere else. But no, I pre-ordered the other 5. But it's. I think a lot of the thing with me is the fear of missing out. It's why I paid over the odds for my Snake Mountain, because I just got the fear of missing out again.
Yeah, it's like I think I mentioned on Tim Hayes' stream. I think I am done with Motu Origins simply because I cannot complete the collection based on the fact that they have made some figures exclusive to Walmart, and they're not available on Walmart's website. But Walmart will gladly direct you to the scalpers that they accommodate on their website to sell you a $20 figure for $60.
Right.
It makes no sense whatsoever. And with regards to the Mattel Creations only doing the vintage figures, that's problematic because each figure, if they do it in waves, it may be okay. But if they do one figure at a time, each figure is an additional $8 in shipping.
Right.
So a $20 figure is essentially a $30 figure.
Right.
And it's just too much. I think Origins was good in the beginning because I believe when they first came out, they were $15 each, which in this day and age isn't at all bad.
Yeah.
But then that's gradually rose in price.
Yeah.
And then when you add in the shipping and whatnot, it's too much.
Yeah.
Martin says, I'm with you, Dean. Generally, I only collect the vintage Star Wars toys that meant something to me as a kid. That being said, discovering Stan Solo has actually made me feel like a kid. Me too. Had Kenner, or sorry, I keep calling it Kenner, had Hasbro done what Stan Solo is doing, I would be Hasbro's biggest customer. But they chose to do something different, and it's not what I like. You have to set limits depending on your situation. Oh, yeah, absolutely. And that's why I think modern collecting is a bit of a no-win situation, because if you do have limits, be it space or financial, you cannot collect modern for eternity because there are so many more things coming. At least when you collect vintage, you have a very distinct start and end point, which I think is quite important.
And price guides as well. It's like you with vintage, it's kind of like the prices. I always say that the prices are unpredictable, but they are still like you can still keep track of them. It's like you can tell that Yak Face. Well, this is in the UK. Like Yak Face is like the pretty much usually round about the 350 mark. The Farm Boy Luke is like a complete one. That's going anything from like the 60 quid mark. It's like they're going up, but you can keep track of them.
Yeah.
So while modern is just going up, just for this, I mean, it's probably, I don't know, inflation or something. But in the past 3 years, a vintage collection figure has gone from about $12.99 to, God knows, like, is it almost 20 or 17, somewhere around them. But
it's too much.
Yeah, and especially when the vintage collector is now at the price of a Black Series figure, which was a couple of years ago. I mean, that would be really kind of draining, like for most people, you know.
Yeah. So Jaws is saying, yes, we did have Three's Company. We had it on Sky TV. Watched it all the time. Sad to hear of the passing of Suzanne Somers. She was great as the ditzy blonde. I don't think I've ever seen Three's Company.
No, I don't remember that.
Ryan is saying, one of the problems with collecting modern is the exclusives. They can be very hard to get. It would drive me crazy if I collected modern. Yep, I agree with that entirely.
Yeah.
That's the thing. When we were kids, in the 80s, whatever was out there was out there. And whatever, I don't think I ever had a circumstance whereby there was a figure I wanted that I could not find. Whatever I wanted was there somewhere. Whether that involved going to 1, 2, or 3 stores, it was always there for retail price. There was none of this scalping, obviously, because there was no internet, but it was a much simpler time. Darth Wizzy Wizard says, I understand collecting only your childhood figures, but don't you want to grow with the times of new sculpt technology, vintage style card backs with more? Nope, not at all.
It's just going to be an awful conflict.
I mean, I'm just wondering if there's a divide whereby there are people who genuinely just love toys, period, or people who only love the toys of their childhood. Because I am very much stuck enjoying what I enjoyed as a child, and I see modern toys as something quite alien to me, to be honest.
Right.
It really does hold no interest, and I apologize if that's not, the sort of feeling other people have. It's just my honest truth. I just have no connection to modern toys.
Well, I feel quite lucky in that respect because I like both. I mean, I collect Ken of Star Wars, Ghostbusters. I'm thinking about getting into Turtles, vintage Turtles. I enjoy those lines. Mask.
Yeah.
I'm a massive Mask fan.
Oh yeah.
But I do like the modern stuff as well, and I feel, I'm spoilt for choice. I really am.
Yeah, you are. But when you say you're spoiled for choice, but when you buy a modern toy, does it just stay in the box?
For the most part, I mean, I do sometimes buy loose versions of them. So some of my Black Series figures I've bought loose because I wanted to display them loose. I learned very quickly that buying doubles doesn't mean that I can open one. Because I used to buy one and then I would buy a second thinking, well, I'll open that. And then I've got it in my hand and I can't bring myself to open the flipping thing. So I've learned I actually need to buy loose. If I want to display loose, I have to buy loose.
Right. But do you find when you hold a toy, whether it be modern or vintage, does it transport you back in time?
Only the vintage ones.
Yeah.
Only the vintage ones. Yeah. I like the modern ones. I mean, I like this Black Series figure. I like holding it, and I don't play with toys anymore.
No, of course not.
Obviously, but I enjoy the articulation, and I enjoy the fact that you can pose them. But then if I pick up this, if I pick up this vintage Ghostbusters Wolfman figure.
Yeah.
Now that really does take me back because I remember having that as a kid.
Right.
So this does something to me that a modern figure doesn't. So I can appreciate what you're saying about holding the vintage figures and it taking you back because it really does. I don't get the same feeling holding a modern Black Series figure. That obviously there's no nostalgia for me because I didn't have this. Correct. When I was young, but if you'd have given this to me when I was 8 years old or 5 years old, it would have absolutely blown my mind.
Of course.
And I think that's why I like them now because it appeals to the inner kid in me.
Yeah.
And I think as I've matured, and I say that in the loosest possible way, as I've matured, so my tastes have in a way. So I'm more impressed by these modern figures now because they appeal to the slightly more modern sensibilities that I have. But having said that, I enjoy the retro collection. I don't think I have any because I haven't felt the need to get any, particularly as the card backs are flimsy and they've got that horrible retro sticker on them.
Oh, yeah.
So I haven't actually got any of those yet, but there are a couple that I'm tempted to get. And as I say, the reaction figures I really like the look of, but
me too.
I think they display very well in the card backs. I think
me too.
all of the reaction figure card backs have been brilliant, bar none. And they do display very well. So I've got no urge to open those. And because they're only a 5 POA figure, I'm not actually going to gain much from opening them anyway. And I think they look better displayed as they are on the card.
So then Darth Wizard also says Hasbro should have been doing what Stan Solo Chris Smith is doing. Absolutely. If they had done that, I would have been all on board. Great to catch one of your live streams in real time. Nice, thank you. Problem with TVC is it's not separated from new media and prequels. Yeah, it's all over the place. Bantha Pudu, hello, toy lovers.
Ah, Bantha.
He ate. Okay. Childhood. My stay in the box mostly now. Dean, check out modern Star Wars figures and dioramas. They are incredible. I think that would change your mind a little.
He's chipping away at you, Dean. He's trying.
He's trying his best. I don't think it's going to pay off, though. Jaws says, Three's company was about 2 girls and a guy living in an apartment, and their landlord, Mr. Roper, suspected they were up to no good, and the guy played for the other team. If you can, okay. So it's like a vintage sitcom, I guess. Figures usually doubles 1 to open. Yeah. That's quite an expensive endeavor there. The connection isn't there. I agree with that. Three's Company was a sitcom about 2 girls and a guy living in an apartment. The guy was played by John Ritter. Okay. I'm a Star Wars retro collector. Yep. Retro sticker. Just use lighter fluid to get it off. Yep, I've done that in the past.
Yep.
But my Star Wars retro figures stay on card. That's perfectly okay. So we have reached well past the 2-hour mark. We're going to close this off now. But I guess it was a pretty civil discussion. There was no sort of violence on either side.
Yeah, no one spat their dummy out. It was all good.
Yeah. And hang on, we got another comment here. Three's Company was the US version of the IT sitcom Man About the House. I don't even remember that, to be honest.
That rings a bell.
But I think no one's mind was changed here. I'm not going to suddenly start collecting vintage collection. And based on my beliefs, no one's going to say, oh, you know what? He's right. Modern stuff sucks. So we're where we were. But hopefully we understand why people like me enjoy the old stuff. And it's perfectly okay to enjoy the modern stuff. We've got more comments. So now they're flooding, and just as I'm closing up shop here, retro sticker, no big deal. Yeah, but I mean, for me, I take them out anyway, so I don't care about the card backs. Look, Dean, go buy some OT only TVC fig backs and come back in 10 years and you will have nostalgia. No, my nostalgia is very much from 80 to 84. That's all I need. Great live stream as always. Oh, thank you, Bearded Geek. And SVAS says, great chat. Thanks. Well, thank you so much.
Cheers, man.
So hopefully, there was no groundbreaking revelations here. No one fell out and there were no words exchanged. Yes, Steve, you will. I can feel your Scottish stubbornness. Great stuff. Thank you. No, there was no fighting here. This wasn't about bashing anyone. It was just trying to understand why some people like it, some people don't. And based on the comments, clearly it's a very much half and half thing. Some love it, some don't love it. That's perfectly okay. I don't understand this love of modern Star Wars toys. And you know what? It's not my problem. And Bantha says, nice trio chat. Yes, it was.
Thanks, Bantha.
Very nice.
So hopefully everyone enjoyed this and no one was offended. I don't think there was any point there was anything offensive said.
No.
It was all very cordial. And again, it's just a case of different people like different things.
Yep.
So when I made my comment on that last video that I thought TVC was garbage, I wasn't offending anyone personally. I was just saying I don't like it.
Yeah.
It's okay to like it. And Darth Wizzy would have said this was fun. So as long as it was fun, that's the main thing. Cool. So hopefully, I don't think anything was really learned here. It was just a case of a back and forth.
Well, I mean, we just learned that, you know, that that people have different opinions, and that's fine, and we understand and validate each other's point of view.
Yeah.
I mean, just because you don't like TVC, Dean, it doesn't take anything away from me. It doesn't lessen my enjoyment of it, you know. And I totally understand why you don't, you know, why they don't push your buttons, as it were.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. There are a lot of people involved with Star Wars collecting who will take great offense if you don't like what they like. I don't care what you like. I like what I like. And as long as I enjoy what I like, that's the only thing that matters. Some people will fight tooth and nail over whatever line of toys they enjoy. Okay, I like vintage. If you don't like vintage, I don't really care. It really is that simple. And we got one more here from Jaws saying, as Bobby Skullface would say, if you like it, you win. It's that simple. Yeah. Like, that is a fantastic point to end on.
Yeah, great comment.
So, in closing, thank you all for tuning into this. I don't think anything was gained or lost by this conversation. It was just a bit of fun. Please like the video or live stream, whatever. Also, Monkey Boy has a channel. Subscribe to him. Do it now.
Yes, please.
And 1980s and Star Wars guy. I don't think you have any videos up yet, do you?
I'm planning on doing that. If I do videos, I'm gonna make them like. Sure, I'll do them like collector based. I'll do them informative, but I've made them amusing. I'm making them funny.
Dean, can you put our names up on the bottom, Dean?
Yeah. If I close this, there we go.
There we go.
Yes.
Cool.
Hey.
So Monkey Boy's toys, and actually, let me see if I can somehow call them up. And I'm assuming nothing has changed on screen as I'm looking at various YouTube channels on my other tab. But if I can copy this and paste this here, that right there, if that's coming up, is Monkey Boy's Toys channel.
Oh, thank you. Thanks so much, Dean.
So if you haven't already done so, do subscribe right there.
Thank you.
Tom, once you get going with your videos, I will promote the hell out of them.
Thank you very much.
Get you some exposure. I think we have a couple of chats I may have missed. Bantha Pudu says Vintage Rules, and I just said there's Monkey Boy's channel. And Vintage Toy Rush in the future has a chat which I'm seeing on YouTube, and I'm seeing it now. So there he says, Skeletor thanks you.
Yes, indeed.
Yes.
Yes. So again, we're going to wrap this up now. So thank you so much for tuning in. I don't think anyone would have been offended by this. It was just a very cordial back and forth. It was my attempt to understand what I'm missing. And I think at the end of the day, I don't feel I'm missing out on anything because I get all my enjoyment from vintage. And therefore, I will continue with vintage. But if you enjoy modern toys, that is fantastic as well. So, and hang on, we've got one more from Justin here. Hey, everyone, just enjoy the hobby. If you don't like or agree with someone, then move along. Doesn't mean you have to voice yours out loud onto others. Have a good one. And Bantha says, mic drop, I'm out of here. And we are out of here as well. Thank you, everyone. And we will see you next time. Okay? Good night. Bye-bye.
Nice to meet you, Tom.
Bye.